Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. On August 25, 2025, the world watched in shock as grainy footage from the Philippine Coast Guard went viral. The video showed the BRP Sierra Madre II, a small Philippine supply vessel, weaving through the South China Sea, pursued by a swarm of Chinese ships. Suddenly, two Chinese vessels, a Navy destroyer and a massive Coast Guard cutter, collided in a chaotic, high-speed chase. The sickening crunch of metal, blaring horns, and billowing smoke were all captured on camera. For a moment, the Philippine crew, once the hunted, became witnesses to a major maritime disaster. Chinese sailors scrambled on deck, their pursuit forgotten as they dealt with the aftermath. The incident was a public embarrassment for China, exposing the risks of its aggressive tactics. The footage spread globally, turning a moment of operational failure into a symbol of escalating crisis. The South China Sea, already a flashpoint, had just witnessed a dramatic escalation. This was more than an accident. It was a policy of intimidation backfiring on the world stage. The images became a meme of incompetence, but the geopolitical stakes were deadly serious. The world could no longer ignore China's increasingly dangerous behavior. The collision forced a global reckoning with the reality of rising tensions in one of the world's most critical waterways. The hunters had become the story. The South China Sea would never be the same. Scarborough Shoal, Panatag to Filipinos, Huangyandao to China, is more than a ring of reefs. It's a symbol of sovereignty, a strategic prize, and a lifeline for Filipino fishermen, lying well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. The modern standoff began in 2012, when China blockaded the shoal after a confrontation over illegal fishing. Despite a US-brokered deal, China never left, seizing de facto control and maintaining a constant presence. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled overwhelmingly for the Philippines, invalidating China's claims. Beijing rejected the ruling, continuing to block Filipino fishermen and escalate its presence. Since then, China's Coast Guard has used water cannons, dangerous maneuvers, and intimidation to assert dominance. Scarborough's strategic value is immense. Control would give China a military triangle over the South China Sea. The stakes are not just local, but global, threatening shipping lanes and regional stability. The slow-burning fuse was now dangerously close to ignition. The August 2025 collision was the result of a year of rising provocations. The Philippines, under a new assertive administration, began publicizing every Chinese harassment, shining a global spotlight on Beijing's tactics. On August 25th, a routine resupply run became a direct assertion of Philippine rights and a red line for China. Beijing responded with overwhelming force, sending not just Coast Guard cutters, but a Navy destroyer. The presence of a warship marked a major escalation. Joint US-Philippines drills and a strengthened alliance further infuriated Beijing. Overconfidence and poor coordination among Chinese forces set the stage for disaster. The world was about to witness the consequences. The vessels involved told the story of the power imbalance. The BRP Sierra Madre II was a modest patrol boat, armed with cameras and resolve. China sent a Zhao-2-class Coast Guard cutter, massive, militarized, built for intimidation, and a Type 052D destroyer, bristling with advanced weaponry. The Philippine mission was humanitarian. China's response was military coercion. The technological and size disparity was immense, designed to overwhelm. But the mix of Navy and Coast Guard, with different command structures, proved disastrous. In the chaos, China's show of force became a global embarrassment. The incident exposed the risks of unchecked aggression. The collision was a textbook case of failed coordination. Both Chinese ships, operating under separate chains of command, tried to outmaneuver each other to block the Philippine vessel. The Coast Guard cutter swung wide, the destroyer cut sharply, neither watching the other. The result, a catastrophic collision, all caught on camera. Panic and confusion erupted on deck, shattering the image of Chinese maritime discipline. The pursuit was abandoned as crews scrambled to contain the damage. The incident exposed a critical weakness. China's rapid naval expansion had outpaced its ability to coordinate joint operations. Western navies spend decades perfecting interoperability. China's rush for dominance left dangerous gaps. Prestige was lost, and a vital lesson was learned the hard way. Hardware means little without the software of training and trust. The world's response was swift and unified. The US condemned China's reckless actions, reaffirming its defense commitment to the Philippines. Japan, Australia, and the EU echoed the call for restraint and respect for international law. The video evidence left no room for denial. China's narrative collapsed. Beijing's attempts to blame the Philippines fell flat. The incident galvanized global opinion, painting China as a rogue actor. Diplomatic fallout was immediate and severe. The collision turned routine bullying into a major international crisis. China found itself isolated and on the defensive. The world had drawn a line. In Washington, words weren't enough. Within 48 hours, the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet was ordered to conduct a major freedom of navigation operation near Scarborough Shoal. This wasn't routine. A carrier strike group led by the USS Ronald Reagan sailed directly into contested waters. The message: the U.S. would not be deterred and would stand by its ally. The deployment was a show of overwhelming power: cruisers, destroyers, and over 70 aircraft. The operation reassured allies and sent a clear signal to Beijing. The U.S. was upholding freedom of navigation and its treaty commitments. The stakes soared as U.S. and Chinese forces faced a potential direct encounter. The world watched, anxious for Beijing's next move. Would China back down or escalate? The regional dispute had become a superpower standoff. The U.S. response was a calculated risk to restore deterrence. The South China Sea was now the world's most dangerous flashpoint. The crisis highlighted the stark differences between U.S. and Chinese naval power. China boasts the world's largest navy by hulls, but the U.S. holds the qualitative edge. 11 nuclear-powered carriers give the U.S. unmatched global reach. China's carriers are fewer, smaller, and less capable. U.S. submarines dominate the undersea domain, while surface ships like the R. Lee Burke class are equipped with the world's best combat systems. American crews have decades of real-world experience. China's navy is still green and struggles with coordination. China relies on anti-access missiles, but their effectiveness against U.S. countermeasures is unproven. The U.S. response is a distributed, networked force, harder to target, quick to adapt. In a direct clash, U.S. technology, training, and experience would likely prove decisive. The deployment was a reminder. Naval power is more than numbers. The South China Sea became a proving ground for global supremacy. The world saw the difference between presence and power. The U.S. Navy's confidence was unmistakable. The balance of power was on full display. The Scarborough Shoal collision and U.S. intervention marked a turning point. For the Philippines, U.S. support validated its strategy and strengthened its hand. The incident exposed Chinese aggression and rallied international backing. For the region, it drew a clear line. Unchecked expansion would no longer go unchallenged. The crisis tested the rules-based order. Would law or force decide the future? The unified response defended freedom of navigation and international law. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. Any conflict here would have worldwide consequences. The collision was a wake-up call, a warning of how quickly miscalculation could spiral. Stability in these waters is a global necessity. The world now waits, watching the line that's been drawn.